Hi, so today we're going to be talking about addiction, anything ranging from substance addiction like cocaine or marijuana, to food, to sex, can even be shopping and other kinds of gambling. And just stick with me and we're going to unpack this in this short video coming up. Hi, so welcome back to Unpacking, the channel of mental health in South Africa. My name is Sharon Rosen. I'm a social worker. I work in private practice. I've been working in private practice for about the last, maybe about 20 years, exclusively 15 years. I got my research master's in psychology, and I got my degree in social work in 1992, I think. So I've been working in this field for a pretty long time. And most of the time I've been working in addiction. The reason why I like addiction so much is that when I was younger, I had a whole lot of stuff in my behavior. I had a lot of trauma, and I got quite addicted to a number of substances and behaviors, and I went through my own journey, and then I decided to study and help people like I was. And it's a wonderful feeling to be able to know what people are going through and to know that I've made it and I can help people make it as well. So, addiction is a topic that I'm absolutely passionate about, obviously from a personal point of view, as well as a professional point of view, and it's just been my focus for so many years. Today, I think, this is the very first video on unpacking about addiction, I would like to introduce you to the concept of addiction. So the nicest thing to understand is that people don't understand that addiction is actually, by many people, understand it as a disease. And that's the point of departure that I'm going to take, that addiction is a disease, and we need to understand it as how it's different from just overusing or abusing. So I'm going to set out for you the difference between use, abuse, dependency, and addiction. Okay, so it's really important. I'm going to try and give you an example from all the different kinds of addiction. So to use food, to use sex, to use substances, so that you understand what it is that we're talking about. So use, everybody understands what use is. I go to a dinner party, I have one glass of wine with my meal, I enjoy the taste, and I drink it for the taste and for the socializing. My partner's out of town, I use pornography just as a means to get off. I want to get off quicker, and so I use pornography, and that's it. Cocaine, maybe I go to a party and I schnauf a little bit, and the next day I'm back on track and everything is fine. So that is use. Abuse comes in where you do the usage a little bit too much. You go a little bit balls to the wall, right? So I go to a dinner party, or I go to a party and I drink a bottle of vodka or 3 bottles of wine, or something where I really just trash myself because I can. Pornography would be something like my partner's out of town, and so I use that opportunity the entire weekend to use pornography. And something for like cocaine, I would just use it and stay up for a couple of nights and then crash. Okay, so you can see the difference between using, where you do it just for pleasure and the taste, to abusing because you want that effect and to feel out of it, but you still kind of know where to stop. And you do stop and you are still functioning normally in the world. Dependency. Dependency is a physiological process where the brain now starts getting involved in whatever it is that you're taking. So you need to understand that substances, mind-altering substances, and mind-altering behaviors work the exact way on the brain as each other. So somebody who uses cocaine, for instance, their brain gets wired in the same way as somebody who's using sex. Their brains look identical if you do images once they have got dependent on the substance or the behavior. Right. The dependency happens because the brain has been having that mind-altering substance or behavior. It develops a tolerance to that behavior or the substance. It wants more and more of the same behavior or substance in order to get the same effect. And then what happens if they stop it? They develop a withdrawal system. So they will go into any kind of withdrawal. Depends if it's a behavior or a substance. They can go into the shakes, they can go into seizures, they can go into something where their body starts having a physiological reaction because they're not having that substance or the behavior again. Okay, so that is dependency, and I'm going to give you an explanation of how the dependency happens in terms of the different addictions or substances or behaviors. Right, so if somebody is using alcohol, right, they've been now drinking 2 glasses of alcohol and they feel lacquer, and now they need 5 glasses of alcohol to get the same effect, and now they stop that, their body is going to, whether they're an addict, whether they're abusing, their body is going to go through some kind of physiological reaction because they're now not taking the substance any longer. I'm going to give you actually a typical example of what happens in South Africa. Just say we've got a housewife, she's got 6 children, she goes to her doctor, she says, please doctor, I can't sleep any longer, I need to just be able to sleep for just 2 weeks, please just help me. And the doctor gives her sleeping tablets, which are mind altering and they have addictive properties, but she doesn't know this, and she takes the tablet and she sleeps amazingly. And then after the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, she goes back to her doctor and she says, yo, those pills are amazing. I've been sleeping so wonderfully, but they're not working so well any longer. Please, won't you just give me stronger tablets? And he says to her, no, you've developed a dependency on them. You need to go off them and then start sleeping on your own. So if she's not an addict, if she's just dependent, she will go home, put the tablets aside, and go through a couple of nights of withdrawal and not being able to sleep properly, and then she'll go back to her life. If she's an addict, she's going to do it very differently. She's now going to go underground. She's going to go maybe doctor shopping, script forging. She's going to do something where she can get those tablets and more because she now needs them. And that is the difference between dependency and addiction. So, coming to addiction, people don't really understand that addiction is an entire lifestyle. It's not just 1 or 2 characteristics that makes one person an abuser who may get dependent, and another person an abuser, somebody who gets dependent, and then somebody who becomes an addict. Addicts have got a couple of criteria that we'll look at now that make them different to the rest of the population. One of them is that they almost always have some kind of genetic predisposition to being an addict. So their mom, their dad, their cousins, their uncles, their grannies, somebody has got some kind of addiction and or some kind of mental health issue. Okay, so then we've got the genes. Then, because usually there's that kind of genetic predisposition, often there's some kind of like chaos in the household where the child grows up. So there can be a lot of moving, can be school moving, can be house moving, can be a lot of people in and out of that child's life. There's just chaos. The third thing is that those parents teach the child how to cope by acting out as opposed to feeling in. In other words, if they feel a sad feeling or a negative feeling in any way, whether it's sad or lonely or empty or angry, the parents unwittingly teach the child to rather have an ice cream instead of feeling that feeling, or rather go for a run instead of feeling that feeling, or rather have a sip of this that will make that feeling go away. So they learn from an early age how to act out instead of feel in. And that's really important because addiction is acting out your feelings. Okay. The other thing, and this is what I personally believe in, is that I think addicts they're born with kind of like a thinner layer of skin than the rest of the population. So they've got less coping mechanisms and they are more sensitive to the world hitting them where they shouldn't be hit. Okay, so they're kind of primed to have a bit of a harder life. So when they get hold of a dependence-producing drug and or behavior, they are more likely then to become addicted to that substance or behavior as opposed to just abuse it. Now I'm going to end this off so that you can really just try and process all this information that I've said, but I want you to understand the most important differentiating aspect of somebody who abuses to somebody who is addicted to is the abuser runs towards their substance or their behavior because they want fun. The alcoholic, the drug addict, the sex addict, the food addict, they run away from terrible, terrible feelings. They self-medicate with their behavior or their substance. And that is the biggest difference between somebody who abuses and somebody who is addicted. So today we have spoken about the difference between use, abuse, dependency, and addiction. And if you have really enjoyed this subject and you find that it was useful to you, please won't you like us and subscribe to us so that we can produce more of this content for you to help you. Thanks.